I knew nothing. Just rewind. Like, wait, like that. I mean, and then, okay, learning Brent Mason licks.
Could you almost demonstrate what you would think about to compose a solo?
Yeah. That's super rudimentary, but that's just how my brain thinks of it.
Your mom gave you this piece of advice, I think, where she was like, whatever you do, do not...
This episode is sponsored by Gator Cases. Guitarists, like any other musician, value the advantages of proper protection for their gear. Guitars, amps, effects, and accessories all need safe transport and storage. Luckily, Gator's got you covered.
How do you visualize the fretboard in your head? Or do you? Or do you just know it so well that you just know what to do when? What do you picture?
That's a good question. My dad's the same way. It sounds so funny, man. It's like, it's just, in my brain, it's just connecting dots. It's like there's, well, first off, because I went so hard in the number system at that age, and like while I was like learning, like, man, people speaking notes like actually messes me up. Like if anybody were to hand me like a chord chart with like letters, I'm like, I can't do it. You know, and I was also playing a lot of acoustic back then. My dad had very wisely told me, like, hey, stay up on your acoustic playing. Like, you know, that could be like a thing. That's another skill, you know, to be a really good acoustic player is different than playing electric. And, you know, so a lot of capo usage and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, especially when I'm using a capo and someone's like, you know, play the D, and it's like, it's all shapes and intervals for me. And so, yeah, like when I think about, you know, soloing, I guess is maybe the word. It's like, you know, I just kind of know where the A's are, you know, and it's, for me, it's like really connecting. It's this weird, you know, amalgamation of like licks that I just learned from ear and like learned to play them in the different keys and then connecting those dots. And, you know, I guess the best way I can describe it is just like largely muscle memory.
Yeah.
At this point, there is nothing cerebral about it for sure. Like I said, at least in how I connect the notes, you know, I definitely approach the recording of guitar very cerebrally. And I like to craft parts, but yeah, I don't know, which is coincidentally, you know, I get asked a lot, like, you know, do you ever give lessons? Like, you know, would you? And I'm like, man, I can't, there's probably no one worse than me to get, I like truly don't know. It's just years and years of doing it and figuring it out my way. And like I said, a lot of ear stuff.
Wait, but when you would practice the Nashville number system, like what did that mean? So you bought this book, you figured out the scale degrees were connected to numbers, and then you would basically, would you play progressions and go through charts and just change the key but look at the numbers? Like how would you practice this to get really competent at it?
Well, a lot of it was just like, I would say, buying those new records and then just trying to write the chart. Because, you know, inevitably, just things like, you know, whatever, if you're in G and playing, you know, this D chord, you know, which, you know, it would be a 5/7 if you're in the key of G or whatever. It's like, even just that stuff was like, I was having to learn that real time. Like, I can't overstate, like, I knew nothing. And so,
that's what I don't get, how you figure this out. How do you put these pieces together?
Well, I would say two things. I think genetics really helped me close the gap. And a lot of trial and error. I mean, I'm stubborn. You know, I would sit there and rewind and rewind over and over and over and over and over. And that was, you know, and not to mention, like fully say, like, if I got really hung up, I could usually go grab my pops and be like, what does he do? Like, what is this? It's like, I know it, but there's a note I could hear. I'm like, there's a note that I'm not getting. Like, there's something. And you know, oftentimes he would be like, well, yeah, it's like an A chord, but he's grabbing this note in the bottom of it too. You know, it's like a 4 over 6 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, but in writing out the charts, and again, I'm a visual learner, I started to see the patterns like in the songs, and you start to just realize like, oh yeah, it's that thing again. Oh, it's the way he walks down. Oh, it's that thing again. It's that thing again. And something about the way my brain works, just that all started to make sense to me. It was just like you see there's a 5/7 in this and a 5/7 in his, but they're not okay, but they're not. It's that's not always a 5/7. If I'm in C, it's this, and like whatever, and you figuring that kind of stuff out. And so yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, just a combination of definitely having the phone a friend. Like I could go grab some, like my dad or my mom or my stepdad, all talented musicians, and I could go grab them and be like, I can't, like, what am I doing wrong? I know this is the notes, but I'm missing a note or something. And they could usually help me out with a voicing situation, or I would just I would just rewind it, just like an idiot, like, wait, like that. I mean, and then, okay. And then writing it down and finding my ways to, like, just remember that. I mean, it was just stupid.
So how do you, like, if you're on a session, someone's like, all right, we're going to do, I don't know what, like a solo in the key of A, like something chicken picking style-esque. So you're thinking about all the roots, and then could you almost demonstrate something of what you would think about to compose a solo with the way you think about it? So you said you would find the roots of all the A's. That's where you start, obviously.
Yeah, well,
and you fill in the gaps around that.
Yeah, that's how it started, and then, like, obviously the part is also then just like years and years and years and years and years of doing this now. So that's the muscle memory part for me. And so, like, if you were, I mean, I don't know, like, say, and then a 5, it's like, yeah, or whatever. And then, and then it'd be like, so let me actually think about the progression I'm going to play. So, something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's super rudimentary, but like, that's just how my brain thinks of it. And then and again, it's like, so much of it now is just muscle memory and like figuring out the blue notes in between everything. And then that's the stuff too that just takes like years and years and years of figuring out. Like, I now know the verbiage for like a major scale versus a minor scale, but when you're a kid, or when you're learning, it doesn't have to be a kid. For me, when I was learning, it was like, yeah, if I'm playing those progressions, why does not sound that cool to me?
Yeah.
And then realize, like, oh, that's more the thing. It's that note. It's not
the major.
Not so much that, yeah.
Versus the minor one.
And then it's just putting it all together, connecting the dots. And then, like I said, like learning licks, like, learning Brent Mason licks, stuff like that. And then I would learn a lick, and then I would learn it in every key, or at least as best I could, and like all the different keys, and being like, okay, here's a lick that they played an A in this, but like, what does it sound like in G? I mean, as stupid as it sounds, but just going like, and just knowing like, oh yeah, okay, that lick works in all these different keys. That little bend thing works. I mean, I'd say I'm oversimplifying it, but I don't even think I can simplify it enough. It was so rudimentary.
Yeah. How competent were you? Because there's the story where you got, like, your first gig, you were subbing for someone.
Oh, God, yeah.
And your mom gave you this piece of advice, I think, where she was like, whatever you do not memorize these songs.
Yeah, she said, write the charts.
Write the charts. The thing to me is, for me, I almost think if I was starting out, it would have been easier to have memorized them because I wouldn't have been able to have read charts. Like, I wouldn't have known how to do that, right? So you must have had some ability or something you were practicing to be able to be really competent reading the charts.
Well, I was doing them all the time. I mean, that was, like I said, I mean, I was just doing them, basically every week I was charting 2 records.
Yeah.
As best I could. Especially in the beginning, I'm sure many of those charts were wrong. But, like, I was just like rumbling, stumbling, bumbling my way through it. But yeah, by that time, the thing you're talking about, and I kind of got this opportunity to go to this gig, it's like, I was reading them, just good enough to kind of be dangerous. And she was right. Like, it was short notice, and there was no way I was going to memorize 75 minutes of music, and all the parts and all the things. And like, some people make a lot of notes on their set list. It's like, I had my book of charts, man. And I'm still that way. Like, I'll write charts for gig, any gig I do, I'll write a chart. I don't care what, I have to have a chart. But oftentimes, like, just turning the chart and seeing it, and I go, oh, I know how this song goes. But there's something about it that cues my memory of the way. Or I'll, I call it, flash memorize, I'll look at the chart and remind myself of the intro and the verse. And then it's just the feel. And then I glance up again. Oh yeah. And then, there's a bridge. Okay, cool. But I'm not like counting the bars, reading it,